Krishna 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 Hare Krishna 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya 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 Om Shri Surabhyaya Namaha 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 Mukam karoti vachanam pangam langayate girim Yat kripatamaham bande Shri Gurum Dinataranam Yat kripatamaham bande Shri Gurum Dinataranam Hare Krishna. Welcome to our Bhagavatam class. We are continuing from Canto number 4, chapter 12, entitled Dhruva Maharaj Goes Back to Godhead. And today we're doing text number 46. Yes. Shrutva etat Shraddhaya Abhikshnam Achyuta Priya Chestitam Bhaved Bhaktir Bhagavati Yaya Syat Klesha Sankshaya Shrutvaitat Sradadha Bhikshnam Achyuta Priya Chestitam Bhaved Bhaktir Bhagavati Yaya Syat Klesha Sankshaya Shrutavaitat Sradada Bhikshnam Achyuta Priya Chestitam Bhavet Bhaktir Bhagavati Yaya Syat Klesha Sankshaya Shrutavaitat Sradada Bhikshnam Shrutvaitat Sradhaya Bhikshnam Achyuta Priya Chestitam Bhavet Bhaktir Bhagavati Yaya Syat Klesha Sankshaya
Shutvaitat Shraddhaya Bhikshnam Achyuta Priya Chestitam Bhaved Bhaktir Bhagavati Yaya Syat Klesha Sankshaya
Shrutvaeta Shraddhaya Bhikshanam Achyuta Priya Chestitam Bhaved Bhaktir Bhagavati Yaya Syat Klesha Sankshaya
Shrutvaitat Shraddhaya Bhikshnam Achyuta Priya Chestitam Bhaved Bhaktir Bhagavati Yaya Syat Klesha Sankshaya
श्रुत्वा एतत् श्रद्धया भीक्ष्णम्
श्रुत्वा एतत् श्रद्धया भीक्ष्णम्
अच्युता प्रियचेष्टितम्
अच्युता प्रियचेष्टितम्
भवेद्भक्तिर्भगवती
भवेद्भक्तिर्भगवती
यया स्यात् क्लेशसंशयः
यया स्यात् क्लेशसंशयः
श्रुत्वा by hearing etat this shraddhaya with faith avikshnam repeatedly achyuta to the Supreme Personality of Godhead priya dear chestitam activities bhavet develops bhakti devotion bhagavati unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead yaya by which syat must be klesha of miseries Samshayaha complete diminution diminution. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Anyone who hears the narration of Dhruva Maharaj and who repeatedly tries with faith and devotion to understand his pure character attains the pure devotional platform and executes pure devotional service. By such activities, one can diminish the threefold miserable conditions of material life. Kind to repeat after me. Anyone who hears the narration of Dhruva Maharaj, and who repeatedly tries with faith and devotion to understand his pure character, attains the pure devotional platform, and executes pure devotional service. By such activities, one can diminish the threefold miserable conditions of material life. Purport. Here the word Achyuta Priya is very significant. Dhruva Maharaj's character and reputation are great because he is very dear to Achyuta, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As the pastimes and activities of the Supreme Lord are pleasing to hearing about his devotees who are very dear to the Supreme Person is also pleasing and potent. If one simply reads over and over again about Dhruva Maharaj by hearing and reading this chapter, one can attain the highest perfection of life in any way he desires. Most importantly, he gets the chance to become a great devotee. To become a great devotee means to finish all miserable conditions of materialistic life. Translation again. Anyone who hears the narration of Dhruva Maharaj and who repeatedly tries with faith and devotion to understand his pure character attains a pure devotional platform and executes pure devotional service. By such activities, one can diminish the threefold miserable conditions of material life. Cell phones may kindly be put to rest. Okay. So similar trend to what we heard yesterday, the importance of hearing not only about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but also of hearing about the character and the activities of his pure devotees, such as Dhruva Maharaj. By engaging in such activities, one's consciousness will gradually become more and more purified, and with a purified consciousness, one will be able to execute pure devotional service. This is also nicely explained in the first Canto, the Srimad Bhagavatam. It is only when one develops the awareness, when one's mind becomes calm and peaceful, that one can actually engage nicely in devotional service. Evam prasana manaso Bhagavat Bhakti Jogataha Bhagavat Tattva Vijnanam Mukta Sangasya Jayate. One of the series of verses in the chapter Divinity and Divine Service, very important chapter actually, that explains the very scientific process by which we can become, that is the end result here being explained, by which one can become unaffected by the threefold miseries of life. Majority of people in the material world are agitated, constantly agitated, disturbed because of these threefold miseries of life, adhyatmic, adi bhautik, adi daivik, which cannot be avoided. It's not that when we become a devotee, it will no longer be too hot or too cold, because that is the nature of the material world. The dualities will continue to be there. The various disturbances that are naturally caused because we have this material body will also continue to be there. It is not that because we become devotees, we will stop the aging process. We still continue to grow old in this material body. Various diseases will be there. But the difference is one who cultivates, this is what is being explained here, one who meditates, who continuously hears these kinds of descriptions and who tries to constantly be connected on this transcendental platform such an individual will gradually become more and more purified, so purified that he will be less and less, to the point of not being at all disturbed by the various manifestations of all of the different disturbances that are there. When Srila Haridas Thakur, as we know, was arrested and punished and taken to, how many? 24? Huh? 22, 23, 24. Anyways, he was taken to over 20 marketplaces and whipped. But he remained completely transcendental. Same with Prahlad Maharaj. He was also tortured in so many different ways. These are the two benefits, major benefits. That's beside the even greater benefit. There are three benefits that are there when one actually develops the consciousness described in the Bhagavatam, the Bhakti consciousness. One is mentioned here. One actually transcends the threefold miseries of life. And for most people, it's a big thing. I mean, to not be disturbed in the face of disturbance is very rare in the material world. It is only because one has to develop this higher consciousness, and most people cannot. And that higher consciousness is best developed, of course, in terms of bhakti, or devotional service, where one totally becomes absorbed in those activities of bhakti. So this is one of the three very desirable benefits that that come when one practices devotional service. He is less and less, to the point of no longer being affected by the miseries, the threefold miseries that come in so many varieties, and especially in Kali Yuga at this time. Second benefit, one also gradually transcends the three modes of material nature, because they also, in a different way, keep our consciousness down. The three modes of material nature is what prevents the living entity in his conditional state to leave this material world. We cannot leave this material world. We cannot become liberated unless we are totally detached from these three modes of material nature. And the third benefit, which is the topmost and highest benefit, of course, is that by practicing pure devotional service, then that one day will come, as in the case of these great personalities that we hear about, such as Dhruva Maharaj, such as Narada Muni, such as Prahlad Maharaj. They are some of many, many examples that are there in the Bhagavatam, we also will develop our pure, unadulterated, ever increasing love for Krishna. And therefore, if we are successful in doing that, as in these great personalities, then we no longer need to remain here in this material world. So this is what awaits anyone who is fortunate to come in contact with this knowledge of the Bhagavatam, because the Bhagavatam especially focuses on the element of bhakti or devotion, and how Krishna bhakti nitya siddha. It is the eternal nature or quality of all living entities. And sometimes it can even become manifest in other species. Rare, but sometimes. Just like when Shivananda Sen, who was one of the leaders who would be going to Jagannath Puri every year when the devotees went to have darshan of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So many devotees, quite a few hundred of devotees would walk the long distance from Navadvip, Mayapur. Must have been quite an adventure, walking for 1 month through jungles, crossing, because Bengal is full of so many waterways, rivers and whatnot. So I'm sure we've all heard or read this nice pastime of Shivananda Sen, who was always very attentive and caring, not only for the devotees, but for this one dog who had also joined the group. And it is explained how one day Shivananda Sen had joined the party, had joined the devotees somewhat late, and upon arriving, he came to know that actually the dog had not been fed. Every day they would feed him prasadam, just like we feed prasadam to our 2 dogs here. Sometimes neighboring dogs come, like yesterday also. So Shivananda Sen became very upset and concerned. So he immediately sent 20 men in all 4 directions searching for the dog. Most of us would not even send 1 person. He sent 20 people. They couldn't find the dog. And after some days, as they continued their journey towards Jagannath Puri, they finally arrived, and it's nicely described. Actually, that very day after the men came back and announced that they could not see, they could not find, Shivananda Sen actually fasted because the dog did not have any food. And when they got to Jagannath Puri, lo and behold, as they say, to everyone's surprise, as they were approaching Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they saw that that dog was sitting in front of Lord Chaitanya, like this. And Lord Chaitanya was making the dog chant Hare Krishna in his own way. Lord Chaitanya was feeding him some pieces of coconut or something, some food, and that, you know how dogs are when they know that. So as soon as Shivananda Saint saw the dog, full dandabas, he paid his full dandabas to the dog, because he knew that this dog, having had the good association of the devotees and every day taking prasadam, except that one day, not an ordinary dog. Prabhupada would explain also in the context of New Vrindavan, that because in New Vrindavan they had dogs, they had cats, and Prabhupada would say these are not ordinary, because they're devotee dogs, devotee cats, because they're hearing. We used to have our prasadi, our first dog, she dog. She was very, she was a puppy. You remember? Yeah, she one devotee brought her. She was a small dog, but anyways, she became prasadi. We gave her the name prasadi. She liked prasadam. And when we had the old temple down there, whenever there was morning program, she would be there. Every time. Remember?
Yes.
Yeah. So, so that means that actually, so then the next day actually, no one saw that dog, and it was concluded that this dog has gone back to home, back to Godhead, by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this Krishna Bhakti is there actually locked in, so to speak. It is concealed, covered within all of us and within all living entities in other forms of life. But by proper association, especially as it was emphasized in the verse yesterday and also in today's verse, by constantly hearing. That's why Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, by regularly, Prabhupada explained, means every day. Every day. And also Prabhupada mentions that especially householders, I don't want to pick on householders, but Prabhupada does say, especially householders, they should go on hearing and hearing about these different pastimes. And that injunction is given because in householder life there are generally more distractions or more interaction with the karmic world, etc. And therefore that injunction is given. So even though we are not on that platform of being completely undisturbed by the threefold miseries of life, or totally unaffected by the three modes of material nature, we should know, because we hear it again and again, and we need to hear it again and again, and become inspired, knowing that if we simply continue to apply the process, then this is what awaits. Also nicely explained in the purport how Achyuta Priya, Prabhupada especially, often he will do that. These words are very important, very significant. Achyuta Priya. So one who becomes a devotee, a real devotee, a surrendered devotee, he becomes very, very dear to Krishna. And therefore, just like a devotee by nature, shuns recognition, is not after recognition, not after fame, not after not after any of these things, but when one becomes, because Krishna by nature, he's, that is one of the 6 natural qualities. Krishna is the most famous personality. And therefore, anyone who becomes also a devotee, he will become famous. You're all becoming famous. You're already famous. Because devotees are so few in the material world. There's a nice example that is also in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. When Srila Madhavendra Puri, who is, an example of a really fully surrendered devotee who had taken a vow. It is permitted for a sannyasi or a brahmana to beg. In Vrindavan, Madhukari is a daily ongoing activity. People go from house to house, they beg some ruti, whatever. But this Madhavendra Puri, he had taken a vow never to ask anything to anyone. So sometimes he would have to fast. He was very diligent about his primary duties and responsibility as a devotee, very humble, always attentive to what he should be doing. So in the story of when this past time when he had gone to Remuna is in the district of Balasore, on the way, as we leave Bengal, as we leave the district of Midnapur, we enter Balasore district, and a few train stations after Jaleswar station actually is Remuna. So in that whole pastime of Gopinath stealing the kheer chor Gopinath, it is nicely described how when the pujari who had been told in a dream to give the hidden pot of kheer to this one person, Madhavendra Puri. So there it describes how the pujari had gone, it was still night, middle of the night. After hearing this instruction in his dream, he had gone to the altar, found a pot of kheer. Then he went out of the temple compound and started looking and shouting, for Madhavendra Puri. He found him and immediately gave him the pot of kheer, offered his obeisances, and he told him, you're so fortunate, naturally. So then after he went back to the temple, So Madhavendra Puri honored the Kir. Then he thought to himself, I should not stay here. You know, in a few hours the sun will rise and this news is going to go around like wildfire, and everybody's going to want to come and offer their obeisances and whatnot. So I should immediately leave Rimuna. He was on his way, as we know, to Jagannath Puri to get some sandalwood to bring back to Vrindavan. So he left immediately. He left with his pot of kheer, and on his way to Jagannath Puri, I think the place is Katak. When he arrived in that particular place, the news had already arrived. And people they received him and started to glorify him. He had left Rimuna to avoid all of that. So the point being that although devotee by nature is not seeking any kind of fame or recognition, but because the Lord actually wants at times to glorify his devotee, automatically it will be there, because Krishna is glorious, and because Krishna is famous, his devotees will also become glorious and famous, although one is not seeking any of that. So these are some of the points mentioned here from this purport. I'll just read the verse again. If there's any comment or question, we can take a few minutes. Anyone who hears the narration of Dhruva Maharaj and who repeatedly tries with faith and devotion to understand his pure character, attains the pure devotional platform and executes pure devotional service. By such activities, one can diminish the threefold miseries, the threefold miserable conditions of material life. Comment? Question?
This question is, what should we do to remove ahankar?
To remove?
Ahankar.
Ahankar.
Ego.
It's in process. Huh? Ahankar is the most deep-rooted contamination, and because it's very deep-rooted, in Indonesia we have at our place at Gita Nagar Baru, that whole area actually, they grow what is called singkong in local language, which means what is it? Tapioca. That tapioca root, normally you harvest after 9 months. By that time, if you leave it really, the roots go very deep. This is ahankar. It is not easy, but this is the process. By the beginning, those series of verses actually describe how at one point this hard knot, which is a knot of ahankar, will be cut. Srila Prabhupada quotes those verses very often, and he put them in his prayer when he reached America. Srinvatam Swakatha Krishna Punya Sravana Kirtana Rijantasto yapatrani vidunoti surisatam. And the whole scientific process of at least become situated in the mode of goodness, and by which we can engage in devotional service. And as we continue in this practice, slowly this chips away at the ahankar. If we are diligent in applying the process, it is acting. Of course, ultimately, it can only happen by the mercy and blessings of Krishna. But it will one day be gone. Okay. Jai Grantha Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. All the people.
Holiness Bhakti Raghava Swami Maharaj ki
Jai.